Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. As part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD1100 C# Programming Fundamentals class, I've been doing a series of video presentations based on the textbook for the class, which is Muroc C# 2015. So far I have done lectures on the first 6 chapters of the book, as you can see right here. In addition, I did, I think about 4 lectures where I think it's in chapters 2, for chapters 2 and 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm not sure if I finished or not, but I'm doing a series of GUI payroll presentations, for a mythical payroll system. And I decided that for completeness sake, I would also do a series of console applications, non-GUI. So I did one for chapters 2 and 3, as you can see right here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it and paste it. And it's going to, this one I'm going to call chapter 4. Now when I open it up, it's still going to say chapters 2 and 3. All right, can I change that? Probably. I don't really want to. There are a lot of internal files and stuff that may get screwed up if I do that. So this right here, once it comes up, is what I had for chapters 2 and 3. Okay? Now what I'd like to do then is to come in and kind of morph with that what I did for the chapter 4 GUI program, which looked like this. Right now I've got basically this functionality here, so I'd have to add this. So to try to make life easier on myself, what I did was I took everything that I've done here and I copied it to a just to a text file, and then I'm going to go in and, like I said, morph or just blend or whatever you want to say. All right, so I've got min hours, max hours, etc. And as I find these min hours, max hours, etc., I'm just going to remove this stuff. All right, so let's see. Do I have these global variables? It does not look like it. All right, I've got hours worked, etc., but I don't have these. Probably would look a little nicer if I said global program variables. Okay. And to try to make this program a little bit more reminiscent of real life, I am going to grab these variables that are right here, the first name, last name, hours worked, and hourly rate, and the gross pay, and I'm going to declare them in here. Now, in order to do that, what that's going to do is it's going to screw up a lot of my other routines. It may not look like it now, but I believe that it will. All right. So notice I've got this first name, etc. I'm not sure what I'm calling input values, why I'm not getting an error right there. This first name is declared in main, but it's not declared in here. So really what I should be passing in here is first name, last name, hours worked, hourly rate, and gross pay. Which means that in here I'll have to say string, first name, string, last name, decimal, hours worked, decimal, hourly rate, and decimal gross pay. All right, now it's giving me an error. There we go. So now I've got my first name, my last name, hours worked, hourly rate, and when I call calculate gross pay, I'll need to pass into that the hours worked, the hourly rate, and the gross pay. You start to see, the reason I'm showing you this is that you start to see why a lot of people do not like to use a lot of global variables, because you end up passing them around from routine to routine. That's the bad news. The good news is they're only able to be changed, worked on, etc. in the routines where you pass them to, which is a good thing. So again, decimal hours worked, decimal hourly rate, decimal gross pay. All right, so all that stuff's done. Now this print totals, I'm going to take that and I'm going to call that from my main. All right, so I'm going to call that from here. Why? Well, because I need to pass all this stuff into it. First name, last name, hours worked, hourly rate, and gross pay. First name, last name, hours worked, hourly rate, and gross pay. All right, so string first name, string last name, decimal hours worked, decimal hourly rate, decimal gross pay. Now that in just a couple minutes I have changed everything. First, before I add the new stuff, let's see if it still works. All right, Jeff, Scott, 40, 20, 800. To exit, press the enter key. Well, that's good. All right, so let's go back into here. We've got these things, and I think I've added those already, have I not? I'm going to keep those as global, all right, because it'll be easier as I'm working around in here. So let's again look at these and make sure I've added them. And they are right here, so that's good. All right, so I don't need these anymore. So in my calculate, there's no button anymore. There's no calculate button. All right, so I've got these already. I've got hours worked, hourly rate. I've got all those. So I can still come in here and I can do this. I can do this exactly as it's shown. I shouldn't say exactly because I don't have text boxes. But I can check and see if the first name didn't have a value. I can check and see if the last name didn't have a value. But I'm going to change that around a little bit. So let's copy this. All right. So here I'm inputting the first name, and I'm going to change it like this. Now don't worry, I'll get errors in here eventually, so don't worry about that. So, in fact, I want to put that down here. So I enter the first name. Now I want to validate it to make sure it's not blank. So if the first name was blank, I can still do a message box here that says the first name cannot be blank. That should work out okay. But I don't really want to return. I want to ask them again to put in a first name. Now the problem with this is if I leave it the way it is, it'll say, please enter a first name, and it'll wait for you to read it. If you don't put anything in there, it'll give you a message, and it'll ask you to do it again. If you leave it blank a second time, it's just going to go on. So I don't want this to be an if. I want this to be a while. All right? And in fact, now I could take and grab this. And I can do the same thing with my last name. So please enter a last name, then validate that the last name is not blank. So while the last name is blank, give a message that says last name cannot be blank, illegal blank, last name. Please enter last name and last name equal read line. All right. So now I have cleaned up or added. We'll work on it in a minute to make sure that it works okay. But we've now validated the first name. We have now validated the last name. All right. Probably guess what's coming next. And that is when we come in and do the hours worked, we want to again come in and say validate hours worked. All right. Now I've got that convert to decimal here. And actually that hopefully will work because what I did here, well, let's see. What if I do leave it blank? All right. It's going to blow up. I'll tell you that right now looking at it. So this will be a while that's the case. We again should be able to do a message box, and we should be able to ask them again. All those return statements that you saw in here go away. We are keeping the user stuck, so to speak, inside of here until she or he actually enters a valid value. So here we're going to validate hourly rate. Change a bunch of these things here. Right, and this will have to be min hourly rate and max hourly rate. So before I go on and add the quote new stuff, unquote, all right, let's see if this works. I'm going to leave it blank. Tells you again, well, it did not go back to it. To check that. All right, that's blowing up. That's not good. I didn't do a save all, which could matter, but let's just double check my logic here. All right, I'm coming up to 15 minutes, so I'm not going to spend too much more time in this particular lesson on this. I'll break it up into a separate lesson to finish it up. Whoops. All right, so we've got first name, last name, hours worked, hourly rate, etc. Input values, and I've got all those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Print totals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So input first name equal read line, while first name is equal to nothing. You should get a message box, and it has to do it again. Same thing with last name. So let's save this, run it again, and see if I screwed up. Well, it's skipping all those. Why, Jeffrey, would that be skipping all those? Input string was not in correct format. Okay. Well, I'm going to go back and try to fix this, but again, I'm near 15 minutes. I want to make sure I'm doing it right. I don't want to be hurried or anything as we're doing this. So I'll come back and make a part 2 on this, where hopefully we'll finish this up in just a couple moments.